Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch Up,
Alcaraz battles back to win in Beijing,
Sinner has doping case appealed by Wada,
and Wimbledon gets the green light on their 39 court expansion.
Chris. Today is the 2nd of October, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. We've had a couple of stunning finals on the men's tour as Carlos Alcaraz fought back to defeat Jannik Sinner in an epic three-set tussle, whilst Arthur Fils won his third career ATP Tour title from championship point down in a battle of the Frenchman against Ugo Humbert. We are also down to the final 8 in Beijing for the women. Wimbledon have been given the green light on their expansion. And in perhaps the biggest bombshell of the last week or so, Chris, the World Anti-Doping Agency, they are coming for Jannik Sinner. They want him suspended. Big news. We're going to be getting onto that in the second half. But no one is leaving Jannik Sinner alone.
And Carlos Alcaraz wasn't, even when he was 3-love down in that tiebreak. He went nowhere. I mean, the thing, Joel, I've got to ask you, we're recording on a Wednesday. The tournament's still going on for the women. It's ended for the men. Shanghai started yesterday.
Has it always been like this?
I don't think it has.
Because listeners, it's not a Monday. Apologies, we didn't actually. First of all, apologies, we didn't actually come out on Monday, but it didn't feel right because, as I say, we didn't get 2 completed tournaments until Wednesday.
Yeah, and we would have missed if we recorded earlier. Not only the Sinner Alcaraz match, but potentially we wouldn't have had the time to do our preparation around the Wada appeal. So it works out slightly from a recording perspective, but in terms of
Shanghai
tournaments,
is going on at the same time.
It's literally going on. One of the
There's an overlap. Like the Beijing final has happened whilst Shanghai main draw is happening, which I say that does not happen too many times on the main tour.
Well, you're in 2 draws in the same week, and that definitely isn't something that should happen very often. But they committed to play both, and hopefully we'll see both Sinner and Alcaraz in Shanghai. Well, it's not far away, is it? I'm sure they can make the very, very quick train journey.
Exactly. So yes, lots to discuss. The Asian swing is in full flow, and we're going to be, of course, talking about Jannik Sinner and that doping suspension, that non-suspension, WADA getting involved in the second half. So lots to look forward to. A mysterious player from
back.
Chris to me as well. It's back. So yeah, lots to talk about. But as always, Chris, let's start with what has caught our attention in the tennis world this week. I'm going to come to I've got something quite interesting from the movie world, but I'm going to come to you first. What has caught your eye?
Well, I was hoping you haven't seen this, and I can tell you about it on the podcast, Joel. But in wonderful form on the WTA, the longest match occurred very recently. I think it was a few weeks ago, and that was when Siegmund won in 4 hours and 9 minutes. That was a very big match. It was the longest match since 2011, and a player who you absolutely love to talk about, who loves long matches, within less than 2 weeks, she's actually wanted to win the longest match title back, because Sara Sorribes Tormo has now gone and done it. She went even longer, 4 hours and 15 minutes to get the win. So, I mean, that is someone saying, please,
incredible,
I need my title back.
And that's not even on a clay court. I just naturally assume these
3 sets.
I just naturally assume these types of records happen on like red clay in the build up to the French Open. But no, this was on a hard court.
Yeah, I mean, the Asian hard courts, they really must not play particularly quickly, but I'm not sure I would have wanted to be watching that one. I think it tends to be a bit of a slugfest, but I mean, credit where credit's due. Sara Sorribes Tormo has now once again got the record for the longest WTA 3-set match.
I feel like by the end of Sara Sorribes Tormo's career, her career won't be fulfilled unless she's got like
all the top 10 places.
5, top 10, top 5 longest matches on the WTA
5 of the
tour.
Top 10, something a bit more realistic there.
That's the goal. That's not enough.
I think she can do it. And maybe Haddad Maia might be in with a chance as well.
Yes, definitely. I mean, to be honest, she might already have some of those matches already in the top
Yeah,
10. I
I
wouldn't I
actually think
wouldn't
she
be
does have at
surprised.
least
Yeah.
four. I think I can name. Yeah.
Listeners, let us know how many matches does SST have in the top 10 longest matches on the tour. I would love to know. But yes, SST longest match on the tour. She took that personally from Lara Sigmund. So good for her. Good for her. Right, my interesting thing of the week, or something that caught my eye from the film world, was this. I don't know, Chris, if you spotted this. Now, Ben Stiller, we all know, big tennis fan,
He loves it.
big Rafael Nadal fan. He's always talking about him on social media when Nadal has a match. Well, he has just been announced as director, and I also think he's going to be starring in this, a pickleball comedy called The Dink. And I'm just going to read the blurb from
Right.
Variety. So, according to Variety, The Dink will see Jake Johnson, one of the actors, play a washed up tennis pro who is trying to save a club in crisis and win his father's respect. But in the process, he's forced to break a solemn vow and do the one thing he swore he'd never do: play pickleball.
Wow.
Are you interested?
I do. I can relate to the fact that if I were to play pickleball, I would lose my father's respect. But I think I can see how they're trying to get tennis lovers to also watch it because, you know, pickleball is the enemy. But this also does feel like maybe I check if Ben Stiller did invest in pickleball in the US because it feels like he might be trying to
Yeah.
drum up some demand there.
It feels like I was wondering, like, is this like pickleball's answers to what Challengers was for
Ooh,
tennis?
for the Challenger Tour in general,
Or
right?
yeah, for the Challenger Tour in general, or is this more of a kind of dodgeball spiritual successor
I
sequel?
don't know, but Andy
Um,
Roddick is in it, is he?
yeah.
I
Andy
mean,
Roddick's going to be there. Yeah.
so maybe he is also, is he playing himself? I know that he's married to an actress, but I mean, he is taking over the podcast world, the acting world. Um, there's nothing that man can't do, you would say. But will I be going to see this? Absolutely not. Will you go to see it, Joel? Maybe.
Yes. And if Ben Stiller is listening, or anyone
Oh, come on
associated,
the podcast.
happy, come on the
Sorry. Yes.
podcast,
What am
talk
I
about it,
saying?
and of course, give us tickets to the
And
UK
sell
premiere.
pickleball to
Yeah.
us. See if you
And
can
sell
convert
pickleball
us.
to exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. But I'm quite curious. I'm quite curious to see how that plays out. I mean, as I say, dodgeball was fun.
If it was
Maybe it's a
paddle, I'd be into it. You know,
yeah, it's interesting they went with pickleball, but yeah, let's see how it goes. I don't know. I don't think it's been given a release date yet, but I'm sure we'll see that at some point in the future. Maybe it should be a forfeit for a slam spoon of shame
ooh,
at
having to
some
go and
point.
see it.
Having to
Or
go see
we
it.
could
Yeah.
contact them and see if they'd like us to be extras. That could be nice, Joel. You could pop up in the background.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Right, let's move on and talk about all the tennis that has been going on over the last week and a half or so. As I say, it's been a little bit out
Last
of
month of
kilter.
Beijing, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit out of kilter on the in the good old Asian swing. But having said that, I feel like the finals, the midweek finals on the ATP tour, have delivered, and we're also going to be catching up on the Beijing 1000 tournament for the women, which is at the quarter-final stage. But Chris, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, they played again this year. Carlos Alcaraz defeated Jannik Sinner 3 sets, 6-7, 6-4, 7-6. Yes, this was quite special. I think this was a very exciting match, very dramatic match. I think this lived up to the billing, and I feel like there's always so much expectation set when these two face off against each other. But regardless of that, did you feel like this match delivered?
It delivered a final set tiebreak. I mean, you can't really ask for a closer match
No.
in that respect.
In a
I think
500 tournament as well.
I mean, it's very good for a 500 tournament lineup. I think overall, level wise, there were flashes of brilliance. Anyone who's seen the highlights reel, I was watching it live, they will think it was a 10 out of 10 match. There were a lot of missed opportunities from Carlos Alcaraz on return. I think that was a little bit the story of the match. It was very, very close. There were, I think, so many missed sort of returns at kind of key moments. I think it was 3 of 15 break points taken for Alcaraz. So Sinner
Yeah.
did play so well when he was behind on his serve. A few things that could be improved from Alcaraz there, but you have to say, I mean, at the end of the day, in what has been Sinner's most successful and one of the most successful seasons we've seen on the tour in recent years, Alcaraz hasn't lost to him. He's 3 from 3. That's got to be a really big thing for him, because if you're the world number one and you split the slams this year, the next thing you're looking at is where are you in that rivalry? And it's very much shifting to Carlos
Yeah.
Alcaraz's favor.
And this, I believe, is the first time someone has won, as I say, kind of three matches in a row. It's sort of been like level pegging so far, but Alcaraz has a sort of taken the lead a little bit in the head-to-head. He's now 6-4. What is it about Alcaraz's game this season, do you think, that has meant that he, in this matchup, has profited?
I think the nature of their relationship means that no matter how they're playing, I think the form book kind of goes out the window a little bit, because they know each other's game so well and they've played each
Yep.
other so much over the years. Obviously, 6-4 on the main tour and in juniors many more times. So it does make you think that it's more mental between the two of them in terms of who is able to get over the line. We've seen some quite topsy turvy sets between them previously in some of their 3-set encounters. And that French Open clash was very much you win one, I win one,
Absolutely.
you win the next one. So I think this was more of an even match. I think in terms of the rivalry and head-to-head in general, I mean, Alcaraz is probably the best mover on the tour and Jannik Sinner is probably the biggest hitter on the tour. So it is a case that Alcaraz is going to make you hit that one more ball that maybe you thought you didn't have to hit. And I also think Alcaraz is a big match player. I mean, he can lose in the US Open to, I mean, a Botic, Van der Sandschulp, and then he can beat Jannik Sinner, the winner of the title,
Yeah.
and actually could have beaten him potentially in 2 sets if he'd taken his breakpoint chances. So he's so streaky, Alcaraz, when it comes to when he is going to pull
Yeah.
the form together. We never know when to predict him to win, but you never should bet against him. But it's 50-50.
Yeah, and just on that, do you think there is this feeling that I think I heard one of the commentators talk about the fact that Yannick Sinner, he's proven he's so consistent with his game.
Mm.
As that's why he is the world number one, because of that consistency. However, he doesn't necessarily have the X factor on the court that Carlos Alcaraz can bring, who, as you
Mm.
said, is a little bit more up and down. But as a result of that, he can actually go on and win these matches because he knows what level Sinner is ultimately going to bring in the court and what level he's going to play at, across the match.
Yeah, I think there is an element of that. I think Sinner's much more predictable in his game style. I think sometimes Alcaraz is able to go off the mold quite a lot. I think he is the talent of his generation. I do think that is Alcaraz in terms of the fact that he has obviously pushed on that little bit more earlier on in his career. I also do think that when it comes to, I mean, what Alcaraz can do and where his level is at, I do think there is that belief inside him that he can do something more, even if he's not playing well necessarily. Whereas I think with Jannik Sinner, the game plan is pretty set. You're going to hit big off both wings, big serve required. And if you do need to come to the net, you do it. But I think with Alcaraz, we've seen him win. I mean, the first time he won a slam, everything went to 5 sets and he couldn't really win 3 points behind his first serve, and he still got it done. So you do just feel like there's a depth of reserve that Alcaraz can go to, and a belief that he can, find ways to do it. I think that's what makes it all the more surprising when he does get upset in some of these tournaments.
Yeah. I mean, especially in that final set tiebreak as well. I mean, he was 3-0 down, 3-love down.
I thought he was down and out.
Yeah, down and out, and he comes back
and a mini break it was, yeah,
and win it
2 mini
7-3.
breaks, yeah.
And history also wasn't on his side, because I didn't realize this, but Jannik Sinner in his last 19 tie breaks, 18-1.
Wow.
So again, imperious stuff from Sinner in that context. But yeah, Carlos Alcaraz seemingly just has some extra resource that he can dig from. I mean, of course, there are a lot of people talking about and getting excited about this rivalry and basically saying this is the spiritual successor to, the Federer and Nadal rivalry. And we're almost kind of still, we're progressing, but we're still like, there are some parallels with kind of the early Federer and Nadal matches. And it just got me thinking, who for you is the Nadal in this rivalry and who is the Federer in this rivalry?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think we naturally assume
Because
from a Spanish perspective that it would be the Alcaraz being the Nadal of the rivalry. I mean, obviously Federer was that little bit older. Sinner is, I mean, marginally older in terms of the. I mean, there's not. Does it have to be a direct comparison? I do think in terms of the big hitting and ball striking, it would be the same way around as we would think.
Okay.
Just because Sinner does hit so big off both wings and the serve is so important to his game as well. But I mean, is there an argument on the other side of it, Joel? I feel like you're asking for a reason.
Well, I was just kind of thinking about the fact that you spoke about Alcaraz as the generational talent. And I feel like, to me, I know that you could obviously describe that and label that as Nadal, but for me, Federer came onto the scene first and really kind of ushered in that generation, including Nadal. So to me, I feel like there is an argument to say maybe that Alcaraz is I know that all the comparisons are to Nadal, but maybe there is
I mean, Federer couldn't get it done on all surfaces until very late in his career in comparison to Alcaraz. So maybe there aren't too many comparisons to draw in that way, but I do think in terms of the nature of the rivalry, we'll be seeing so many more of these. And to be honest, it's a little bit more exciting, I'd say, because they are competitive on all surfaces with each other. Whereas, I mean, we saw a lot of very one-sided results on clay when Federer was involved. But we should also say maybe Alcaraz is the Novak Djokovic of his generation. Who knows? For anyone listening who's a Djokovic fan as well.
Very true, very true. And actually, that's a very good point in terms of how the rivalry is different. And actually, arguably more exciting is that it does feel like they are equals across all the court surfaces, where it was a little bit like you've got your home territory, you've got, you're coming away from home, when it was going from grass to clay, etc. So very interesting observation there. I mean, there is other tennis still going on in Beijing, and that is in the women's tournament. That's a WTA 1000 huge draw. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like how huge this draw is because of the nature of how many players got buys into the second round. It feels like it's taken a while to get going, but we are, suffice to say, we are at the quarterfinal stage. Sabalenka, Muchova, we've got Andreeva, Qinwen Zheng is there, Coco Gauff, a Ukrainian qualifier who I'm going to try and say the name, Starudubtseva.
Okay.
I hope I'm saying that right. We've got Zhang and Badosa, who defeated Pegula, who was the second seed. I mean, Chris, so far, what have been your kind of main outtakes, from the tournament? Because although it has taken a while to get going, there's still plenty to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. I think for me, key headlines are Paula Badosa is bringing her form to the Asian swing, which is great to see. She's really rising up the rankings now. She's really cementing herself back in the top 20 and pushing back towards top 10. She's getting really close. So that's really exciting. She's got a really good chance to go further here. Pegula, though, really unlike her to get bageled. Normally, she's always able to find a way to lift her game. Very, very surprising result. Other results that I think are very kind of worthy of comment. We've got Muchova playing some phenomenal tennis. I think it's the first time that she hasn't dropped a set in so many consecutive matches in years, if not her whole career.
I mean, I am excited for Sabalenka Muchova. I actually think maybe the winner of that wins the.
I think Muchova might get it. She's really playing brilliantly. So that would be very exciting. I think Sabalenka, she's picking up some ranking points in a place where Swiatek isn't. So that's also a story. But I mean, what's caught your eye, Joel? Is it Naomi Osaka and Patrick Mouratoglou's first outing together?
Well, yeah, it was actually because, well, not just that, but it was the fact that we got Osaka versus Gauff, two players that we have been speaking about recently in terms of their
the coach swap,
coaching situations. Coco Gauff no longer with Brad Gilbert. Osaka bringing Mouratoglou on board, and I wasn't sort of expecting to see such a direct matchup between them so soon, but that is what we got. And it was quite sad actually, because Osaka had to retire with a back injury. I mean, I don't know if you watched it or saw some of the highlights, but by the end of it, she basically just couldn't serve, or she was sort of serving second serves for first serves, and it was really disappointing actually, because it was she
could have won it in two.
Could have won it, yeah. But yeah, she had to retire at the start of the third set. So I was quite intrigued by that matchup, but yeah, a little bit saddened at the same time about, as I say, Osaka and her body, because she's spoken about her body a few times, post pregnancy comeback and saying it doesn't feel like her body, and I don't think these situations are going to help.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was like relating to the pregnancy or just the fact that she's on the court, but it doesn't feel like she's able to do the same things that she could do within her body, almost an out of body experience, I think. And what's great about this is that she's played, I think she got 3 wins. She doesn't always get 3 wins at tournaments these days. And she definitely showed that she could be a top 10 player. If the injury was not something that she did pick up kind of going through the week. She doesn't often play at this point 3 matches or 4 matches in as many days or in a week. So physically, you can understand why there might be some issues there, but very promising that the start of this new coaching relationship has got off to such a promising start. But also, it just feels like the new injection of team has lifted her. It feels like this is a new chapter. And this is about setting herself up with the right team, the right coach for a really successful 2025. And we don't want to talk about it too soon, but I do think that this could be a really positive period for her now if she can stay fit.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope we can see Naomi Osaka back on the court very, very soon. I mean, Mira Andreeva as well is making a good run of it. And as you say, Badosa, I do think like she's heading back towards the top 10. A stat I enjoyed from her match with Pegula. She served 38 first serve. Sorry, she served 38% first serves in, but won 95% of the times that she did. So, yeah.
Wow.
Crazy to think you can have something like that and bagel a player in the second set.
Maybe it's the slower you hit it, the harder. Maybe Jessie Pegula is so used to playing against Sabalenkas and getting all that pace back. But, I mean, that's not a good result. I feel like we'll see some much better results later in the Asian swing. It
just felt like Pegula was just hitting it into the strike zone of Badosa, and she was like, thank you very much. And
she seemed surprised Badosa afterwards, didn't she?
Yeah.
She said, I thought that'd be really tough, but turns out it wasn't. So hopefully her next match will be a bit more of a contest.
Yes, exactly. And as I say, Sabalenka, Muchova. Sabalenka, interestingly, she has now registered 800 winners in WTA 1000 tournaments during 2024. Now, that's notable because the next best is 636. Like, she is so far out in front in terms of her kind of ruthless aggression and power. It's it's incredible.
Big numbers there. And then unsurprisingly, I was just looking at this also on the list. Very close together are Iga Swiatek and Elena Rybakina. So given the fact Rybakina barely plays, I'm actually almost more impressed with 611 winners from her to Sabalenka's 800.
And 517 winners for Coco Gauff. I wanted to raise that because...
how many were on the backhand?
Yeah. And
500.
And was that how many double faults was that? Is that 518? No.
That's a different tally.
Right. And we also had the tournament out in Tokyo. This was another ATP tournament, a men's 500. And we got an all unseeded final against a couple of Frenchmen, Arthur Fils and Ugo Humbert. And this was a final that also didn't disappoint because Fils won from championship point down, saved it in the second set tiebreak and won 5-7, 7-6, 6-3. This was impressive from Arthur Fils, Chris. I know you're a big fan.
Yes.
And I will just say now, Ugo Humbert's record in ATP singles finals, it has been broken. He was 6-0 prior to this. And I don't think Fils had a win over Humbert on the tour. So this was, in some regards, quite a big upset.
I think it would have been the first player to go 7-0 potentially.
Yes.
I saw that and I just thought that is, wow, it doesn't happen very often, does it?
No.
In terms of the two players, I think the only real winner you could say across the board and someone who wasn't rooting for anyone would have been Lacoste because they're both wearing matching outfits. And I saw someone say, Lacoste should do better, but I'm pretty sure they're quite different characters. I'm sure everyone could tell them apart. I thought that was a very strange comment that people seem to say on social media. But in terms of the tennis, it's good to see Humbert playing well again. He's kind of had those sort of breakout results at the start of the season where he won. I think he won in Dubai, he won in a couple of other places, but he wasn't necessarily a big factor towards the latter end of this season. So it's good to see that he's getting himself back into good positions again, slightly helped by Jack Draper's withdrawal. But Fils, it does seem like when he's on, he's maturing. I mean, what a semi-final! Those two tie breaks, 8 and 10. I mean, if you're Holger Rune, he is at least getting some wins now, but you must be thinking there are some chances there that you really would have liked to have taken, and maybe Holger Rune from last season would have taken.
Runa's just getting ready for the Saudi Arabia exhibition coming up
Mm.
in Riyadh. That's what matters. That's what
Yeah, and
matters.
he's doing some book signings in Denmark for his new book that's come out. So
Oh,
anything,
really?
yeah, I didn't queue up for the autograph, but I did see lots of stuff on social media where people
Okay.
are very keen. So it's actually a children's book. So that's nice, but I'm sure the Saudi Arabians pay a bit more than the sales
Mm.
from his Danish children's book will do. But either way, I mean, it's nice to be back in Tokyo. I think it's always great to see some of the results that you get there. It's a really beautiful court. And just a shame for British fans that obviously Jack Draper had to withdraw after taking out the top seed.
I
Not the top seed, the
know,
second seed.
and it just can't. There's still that question mark, isn't there? And he's not in Shanghai, unfortunately, but he was playing such good tennis. I mean, taking out Hubert Hurkacz in two sets, and both those sets not even being tie breaks, 6-4, 6-4, I think just says a lot about his game. But yeah, really unfortunate he had to retire against Humbert. I mean, just before we go to a quick break, just going back to Arthur Fils, he is the youngest player in the top 40 by over a year, and he's now just outside, I think, the top 20. Um, where do you see his kind of trajectory going? Because I feel
Mm.
like you were in the space maybe at the end of last season, being like, this
Yeah,
season is going to be his breakout season, and I know he's won this, he's won this title. He's playing some good tennis. He reached the fourth round of Wimbledon this season. But do you feel like there's still better things to come from him?
oh, that's a tough question. I think this season is there better things to come from him. I'm not necessarily sure. I think hopefully he'll have a good restive season, but we are looking for that next level breakup, and we're talking
Mm,
about who has the most sort of potential. We talked about Jack Draper and Arthur Fils, and they're both at 19 and 20 in the live rankings now. And as you say, like people don't realize that Fils has only just turned 20, so he's so young, so talented. And last year when we saw him play at the Billie Jean King Cup, the physicality and
yeah,
the fact
the
he's so
power.
dangerous on all wings, he hits the ball so
It's
hard.
it looks so effortless as
It
well. I
really
mean, the
does.
the way he saved championship point, yeah, listeners, go have a look at it. It was literally a rocket of a double-handed backhand down the line, passing
It was
shots. Yeah.
ruthless. It was great. And I think he does play like that, very carefree in how he plays quite often and not always the most serious customer, I'd say. So I do think discipline is something that will be when he adds that to his game and maturity, and his game matures and he matures as a person, he's only become more and more dangerous. But if you're looking for a French player with the potential to win a slam, I mean, it's got to be him.
Yeah, I still feel like we're maybe waiting. I feel like he's got quarter finalists at a slam written all
Oh, well,
over
he's
him.
having a semi next year, definitely, for sure.
Right, we're going to take a quick break now, but do join us in the second half where we will be discussing Wada appealing the decision to clear Jannik Sinner, Wimbledon's tennis court expansion getting the green light, and we take a look at what's coming up in the Shanghai Masters. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, and it's time, as always, for another game on the show. And this time we're bringing it back. We said it at the start of the episode. Mysterious player has returned.
Yes, it has, Joel. Um, we are, in fact, this is long overdue, I'd say. Normally, it's better when there's two people for
Mm,
the mysterious player guessing. I think that's normally what we do to fill in the gaps
yes.
when we can't do it back and forth. And after last week, I thought maybe we should take it back to a bit of a simpler construct after we all shouted at
Yeah,
each
we're
other
still we're still
about
yeah,
US Open
recovering.
winners.
We're still
Yeah,
recovering from last week's, yeah.
it was certainly entertaining. But this week, listeners, what we're doing is mysterious player. The way that this works, and also for Joel, actually, I'll remind you of the rules. I will unveil a series of clues. And every time I unveil a clue, you will give a guess as to who the player is. And when you get the right answer, obviously we stop and you can see if you get the answer before Joel does, or if we get the answer. Because sometimes it's been particularly tricky. We haven't always got there. Sometimes you get it in one. And then I will tell you the other things just to make it a bit more interesting afterwards. And you can say where you would have got it if you continued on. But are you ready, Joel?
I am ready. I hope I am. I hope I'm not saying where's Kim to help me
Yes.
when I'm floundering after the first clue.
Well, maybe I should do. You do like a date of birth. I should have probably thrown one of those in, but I haven't. I've
Oh,
gone.
thank goodness.
I've gone with my career high in singles is number 22.
Okay. Could be anyone. I could
You're
be
gonna
any.
say goat net. I can tell.
Um, I'm gonna say Katerina Sinyakova.
That's not a bad guess at all. I can say that it's not Siniakova,
Oh,
but I like the way
okay.
that you're thinking.
Okay.
I can tell you my current singles ranking is 595.
Do you mean doubles ranking?
I mean singles ranking.
Oh, hang on. Was the first clue singles ranking or doubles ranking?
The career high was singles, yes.
Oh, okay. So my current ranking. Okay, got
They're
it.
both
Right.
singles rankings.
Right, got it. So current ranking, what was it? 500.
And 95.
Hmm. So maybe like an injury layoff.
Hmm.
So they're still, I guess, an active player.
Yeah. It's gonna be going
Um,
up soon though. It will.
ugh. I want to say someone like Marin Cilic, but I obviously know he's been much higher than 21.
I quite like that as a guess because he was obviously the lowest ranked ATP titleist the other week.
Yes, he was. It's not. Hmm. Oh, I'm struggling for a guess here. I'm gonna say this is not right. Simona Halep.
Okay, Simona Halep. Well, I will continue, but I'm sure the
Okay.
ranking isn't too far off actually. So you do like to go by the most recent question with your guesses.
Yes.
Um, I made the quarterfinals at the Australian Open in 2016 and at Wimbledon in 2019. They do get easier, listeners. I promise you.
Quarterfinals at Wimbledon, Australian Open. Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh, this is
It, it
tough.
it does get
Is
easier. I
it a
promise you.
recently retired player who's just still on the system? Maybe.
That would be truly harsh.
Yeah, like I don't know, like Andy Murray. Um, um,
I'm
Angie
gonna have
Kerber.
Angie Kerber. Okay, that's again not a bad guess actually. But I will have to continue.
Oh,
I won my Grand Slam doubles titles with Samantha Stosur, the
ooh.
2019 Australian Open and the 2021 US Open.
Who won? Sammy Stosur. Oh, that's yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna say
You did at least know they're a female player now.
yeah. Sue Shea.
Okay, I will continue. This is where it gets interesting. Okay,
Okay.
I'm probably going to give it away now, but I recently had a 24 match losing streak.
Hmm. Is it? No.
It's not Dan Evans.
Um, I'm still really stuck.
Ooh,
Christina Mladenovic.
that's actually not a bad guess, but she has been higher in the world and won many more doubles titles. My
Okay.
final clue, and if you can't get it from this,
Oh, I need
I'll
Kim.
despair.
I need Kim. Yeah.
I'm in the quarterfinals of Beijing.
Oh, okay. I've just literally read them all out. I need to go over my mind and think about who I said. Um,
Ooh.
is it? Ooh,
Suspense is killing us,
I
Joel.
don't,
How well did you read the draw?
I'm trying to think. Uh, Zhang?
It is. It is
Wow.
indeed. It's Shuai Zhang. or Zhang Shuai, as it appears on the draw sheet. She had a 24 match losing streak in singles. She still
Wow.
took the wild card for Beijing and she made it through to the quarterfinals, beating and not actually dropping a set, but she beat Emma Navarro on the way there. She
Wow.
also won two Grand Slam doubles titles and reached most recently, I believe, a Grand Slam final this year with Kristina Mladenovic. So, Mladenovic, we're in the same world, Joel.
We are indeed, but I still feel like I was also universes apart because I think I needed Kim. I needed Kim for some help on that one. But listeners, let us
She would
know.
know that, I
Yeah,
reckon.
she.
Kim,
I
let
think
us know
so.
next time.
Yes, listeners also let us know. Did you get that before I did? I'm going to assume you did because I took a long time to get that. But thank you very much, Chris. Very lovely return for mysterious player there. We are now going to move on to the Tennis Weekly mailbag, and Tom got in touch with us on Instagram and asked us this. He said, "Hello, Tennis Weekly. The Six Kings Slam exhibition event is coming up in Saudi Arabia with Alcaraz, Djokovic, Nadal all expected to take part. The winner will get a mouthwatering $6 million with a 1.5 sorry, and with a 1.5 million appearance fee alone, that leaves one lucky player with $7.5 million in total for 3 days' work. That is double Grand Slam, what Grand Slam winners achieve. How seriously do you expect the players to be taking this, or will it just be another exhibition event?
Ooh, that's a
7.5 million.
it's scary, isn't it? I
That
think
is
this is why
crazy.
people are so
It's
concerned that
silly.
it's silly money. I think that's why people are so concerned that things are going to shift so much more to Saudi Arabia because there is this kind of money to play with when it comes to exhibitions,
Mm.
when it comes to these sorts of things. Um, I think the players will take it very seriously. I think when you know you're making that much money, but there is that much more money on the line, you will take it much more seriously, especially when you think about, I mean, Rublev and some of the scenes that we saw at UTS where he said there's a lot of money on the line. He really did take it seriously because it's a
Mm.
chance to earn more money than you do on the tour. This is more money than you could possibly ever win at a slam. This is
Yeah.
retirement money almost. So definitely they'll be taking it seriously by the budget that they have for the trailer. Did you see the trailer for this event? They've made a
I've not
whole
seen that.
movie
They made
trailer.
a trailer. Oh,
Oh,
wow.
check it out. It's very strange, but it is high budget. People are very excited for it. I don't love this sort of money being thrown around at times when there's a lot, but they're already very highly paid, and a 1.5 million appearance fee doesn't necessarily feel like everyone on that field warrants it. I think it's a bit of a strange one to call it the Six King Slam event and
I
then have
mean, we're
Holger
just
Rune
in
on the
the
lineup.
Yeah, we're just in the era of just slapping
Silly money.
slam on the name of
Oh
an
yeah, the
exhibition
Netflix
event, Netflix
Slam,
slam. But yeah, I've got to agree.
Saudi Slam's coming.
I think we are in this sort of new era of exhibition events because I swear growing up it was more of a laugh and giggles and bit more fun and smiley faces on tennis players mic'd up,
Yeah,
etc.
Brahmi's on court missing a volley.
Exactly. And there was no pressure. But this might as well be, I feel like, a tour event with the money being thrown
It's not going to
at
make any
it.
money, is it? You may as well have a tour event. I'd
Yeah.
rather have a 1,000 event in Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia, wouldn't
But
you?
yeah, I agree. I agree. So, it'll be fascinating to see how the players, once they do step on the court, like what their expression is. But I feel like with that much money on the line, yeah, it's going to force you
Mm,
to act in a certain way. But we shall see.
yeah.
I mean, it is coming up October 16th to
Well, I mean,
October
that's
19th in
a big
Riyadh.
shame because I did expect all of these players to be at the Stockholm Open with me, Joel. And now I understand why they're not in the lineup because
Mm,
slightly more winnings on the line over in Saudi Arabia than there are in the
yes.
Swedish capital.
Yeah. I'm interested if Nadal actually plays. I think that's quite
I
a
mean, he did play the Netflix slam when he wasn't fit.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
when
yeah,
money's on the line,
I mean it is going to effectively be retirement money for him. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he
Kim,
does
we're
turn up.
sorry if you're listening. He's playing, I promise you, he's playing the Davis Cup.
Right. Well, two players who are scheduled to play in that event are Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. And we're going to be talking about Jannik Sinner right now because the big news from the last few days has been the fact that the World Anti-Doping Agency are appealing against the decision for Jannik Sinner, who was tested twice positive for a banned substance, and WADA are now looking for him to get a suspension between quote here between 1 and 2 years. The appeal is to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. Sinner has expressed his surprise that WADA have effectively kind of come after him. But Chris, you have been reading into this. You have been reading into the report as usual.
Yes.
What are your kind of? I feel like it's very easy to get bogged down in all the information out there. But what are the main highlights of this next evolution of this case? And it's caught Sinner off by surprise. Do you think also it's caught fans off by surprise as well? Or
there was a little bit of warning from WADA in the sense that there was an online celebration from Jannik Sinner fans who were saying that they had actually missed their deadline to appeal this. And WADA put out a statement saying that they actually had longer because it's when you first receive the information about the ban. And actually, WADA do have, I think it's a week longer or maybe 2 weeks longer than any other institution who can actually appeal this. So when they said there's still time for us to appeal it, it did seem like a bit of a strange thing to say if you weren't going to appeal it. So I was expecting them to appeal the decision. What's interesting about what they've appealed is it's around the no fault or negligence line. And this is significant. It's not about whether he doped intentionally to gain a performance enhancing advantage. That is not what's in question here, although I have seen numerous things online which are looking at clostebol and how long it takes to leave your system. The experts are divided. And Joel, I think we can agree we are not experts in how long it takes clostebol to leave your...
We're just reading the news articles fans, reacting like fans. This is our opinion.
I would say when it comes to this, the thing that I never thought made sense about this was how could you say that Jannik Sinner and Jannik Sinner's team were at no fault or negligence? And that is exactly what WADA is saying. And I think that is so significant because when they talk about this, if you have no fault at all, that means that your team and everyone involved did everything they possibly could to ensure that they were clean and this was something outside of their control. But the difference between the lines is no fault or no significant fault. And I think that what WADA is saying is there was no significant fault. And the inclusion of that word actually means that the ban does apply. And this was the case with Maria Sharapova, who bore no significant fault. She was still banned. She received an email telling her a substance was going to be banned. She still took it. She did say it was for medical reasons. That was what was bought. Everyone agreed with that at the time. I mean, the court of public opinion maybe didn't, but then she did get the ban because it was no significant fault. So the reason why they're going after this is because it requires the team also to bear no fault. When what's very strange about this is that his fitness coach, who was aware of this, who actually picked up this product, Ferreira, then handed it to his physio, and they're saying he didn't tell the physio that this was something that was banned. It says on the box, bigger than anything, it was banned. And then the physio used it and then treated Jannik Sinner. And part of it is making sure that your whole team is aware of all the rules and adhere to them. And that's where the no significant fault comes in, because these two people should have known better. And if you are running the tightest of tight ships, this should not be something that could happen, because especially in Italy, it's so prevalent, the use of clostebol.
Do you think Jannik Sinner should be responsible and held accountable for the actions of his team? Or do you think it's fair for him to say, hang on, these people aren't me. How can I be responsible for what they do?
I think based on the balance and the fact that nobody is saying that Jannik Sinner is at, well, no more than significant fault. They said no fault so far. I think he is not trying to gain an advantage from the amount that was in his system. I don't know enough about the science to say, but when it comes down to the rules are rules for a reason. And that was why I had an issue with it. It didn't feel right that you could say there was no fault here. and so definitively and so quickly when clearly there was negligence that took place. And I think when it comes to the reasons for it being that way, otherwise you could just have people testing positive and getting reduced sentences because their team did it. It wasn't them, but you have to be responsible for your team. And if you have the luxury of having a team, you have to make sure that they are also adhering to the rules as every player should. So I don't really want to see Jannik Sinner banned for 2 years. Of course, I don't want that. I don't think it's good for tennis. I think all of this is a very bad look for tennis, especially because Wada aren't asking for any of the results to be taken away from him. The US Open will never be in question. Every result he has, apart from the results that he's already been stripped of in Indian Wells and the prize money, the points, will be staying. So that's not changing. But it feels like this is happening at a time when WADA are also not pursuing other people who have been having performance enhancing benefits, such as the Chinese swimming team, who did medal in a previous Olympics really recently. And that was brushed under the cover. So it feels like I understand why they're going after Jannik Sinner on this reason, on this clause. I do think they are right. He does bear no significant fault. But I also think it's a tough one because banning the world number one at this point is a terrible look for tennis, especially when there's no performance enhancing advantage. But was it his responsibility and his team's responsibility as the rules currently stand? Yes. So therefore, I think they've got a very good case for it. And I do agree that he should be held to account for it.
And it's interesting because I think when this kind of broke, there was all the talk about kind of preferential treatment. Was he getting special treatment as the world number one? And I think, you know, the World Anti-Doping Agency have come in. They don't care who Jannik Sinner is. I feel like if they feel like they've got a case or something feels a bit off, regardless of who that is, they want to see accountability and want to pursue it. Hence why
they tend to go a bit harder, don't they, Joel? Yeah, I think with Simona Halep, they pushed for a lengthier ban. That also ended up at the Court of Arbitration for Sports. That's also where this is going to end up. But I guess, like from the side of things that we've talked about, do you think that a ban would be something that, I mean, do you think it should happen? Do you think it should? I mean, I can see a reduced ban, a shortened ban. I would not want a 2-year ban. I would not want a year ban, but I do think a period of ineligibility wouldn't be a bad thing here because people have to be held responsible within the rules that currently exist. No one is above the rules. Well, some people are clearly, but that's not Jannik Sinner.
I think there is, like, everyone comes away from taking something that they've learned from the situation. I guess it would be a much more bitter pill to swallow if Jannik Sinner has to take time off because of something he would have felt that, wasn't his fault, is what I imagine. There's a part of me that sort of just wants to get on, with the tennis, and it's amazing to me, I guess, that these things can happen whilst like he's still playing.
It's hard to enjoy the tennis. Are you finding that? Because there's this sort of thing waiting, will he still be able to play? Are we okay with this? Are we not okay with it? There's no answer.
Is he going to play the next Grand Slam? Yeah.
Will he defend Australia? Will he defend his US Open title? Big questions.
Is he such a big component now of the season? Him and Alcaraz split the 4 Grand Slams, and I don't know. And I guess that to me is the sort of my feeling now is, okay, how long is this actually going to take? Because I always feel like with these things, they take forever and ever. And are we going to be talking about this in 10 months' time, or are we going to reach a resolution very quickly? And, arguably, that would be the best for all parties, because if something does get put in place, it can happen now before the new season starts with a Grand Slam taking place. Maybe he misses the World Tour finals, but that's
it does make me think if you were Jannik Sinner, would you rather take a 4-month ban now, deal with it, and then get back on with tennis, or have this hang over your head for all this period of time and then get banned for some period of time, and then you also might have to have, I don't know, further questions about all of this? Or would you rather just take it as you say and then get on with things? Because I mean, I do think credit is where credit's due. For him to continue to perform the way that he has done, we said this at the time, to win the US Open with all of this hanging over your head, so much focus, so much negativity, and such a cloud over tennis, and just to rise above it all and produce some of your best tennis. He didn't get the win today, but Carlos Alcaraz did say, and made a point to say, I respect you a lot as a player, but even more as a person. And I think the people that know him have all said that they don't think this is the case, that this was deliberate, and the doping side of things has gone. But there is this question of, can he really be saying, I'm so innocent in this that my team were the perfect model of this? Well, they're Italian and they didn't know about the biggest doping issue in all of Italian sport. It's very strange to me, this whole it's a bit of a circus at this point.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, these quotes taken from Sinner. I mean, he said, "I'm very disappointed and also surprised of this appeal because we had 3 hearings and all 3 hearings came out very positive for me. So, you know, I was not expecting it. I knew it a couple of days ago that they were going to appeal. That today it's gone official. But yeah, it's a surprise. So it sounds like it's gone one way. He thinks he's come out of it. It's
a very well-worded thing, isn't it? You know, we'd like to move on, was his statement. And then Wada said, hang on a minute, you don't decide that. We're not
moving on just yet.
Exactly.
So, I guess I feel like, to me, I'd still say he's learned his lesson. And I think like we can get on with it. But I think Wada wants, as I say, that extra level of accountability that they don't feel like there has been that so far. And it's going to be ultimately up to Cass to understand.
Yeah.
Has Sinner learnt his lesson? Does he need that extra, time off to really kind of hammer home this point and arguably probably make a bit of a point that, they, can have impact on sport. Yeah. And this is obviously a very high profile case.
Yeah, we'll leave us with one thing of saying that when we talk about responsibility for your team and whether that should be Sinner's responsibility, think about just how few failed tests there are in elite tennis at the moment. And if we do believe it is transparent testing and that the test results are reported and are accurate, then it's not necessarily a case that this is very prevalent, that teams are doing all sorts of things. It does feel like this is a particular circumstance where the team has not done the right thing. And I do question whether that is the responsibility of Jannik Sinner, because you do have to make sure that everyone around you is completely on it with this. And one thing from that report that was said, which I'm not sure I necessarily buy, was that Jannik Sinner asked, apparently, his physio when he saw the cut, are you being treated for anything for that cut? And the physio said he wasn't. And then they said that he didn't ask him again. But to be honest, I'm not even sure that would necessarily have happened. So I think it's this whole thing of, then you construct a narrative about how you could or didn't know. And I would just rather they just be like, look, it was in my system, my team are responsible for it, and you have a standard ban, and then that's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it still feels like he's got the respect of the locker room, because Alcaraz has said, talking about Sinner, I respect you a lot as a player, but even more as a person. So it still feels like he's got the respect of the locker room, which maybe is also quite kind of telling whether there is sympathy to this case that maybe doesn't exist.
Maybe not from Nick Kyrgios.
Maybe not from Nick Kyrgios, granted. But
he's not in the locker room, though, is he?
That's very true. That's very true. But yes, we will have to wait and see. But there's more to be told, I think, from this story. And although Jannik Sinner wanted, I think, a full stop on this, a few weeks ago, it certainly feels like there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to come, and ultimately, Cass are going to have the deciding vote on what happens in
2029. We'll get a hearing.
2029, exactly right. I mean, moving on, just very quickly before we look at the Shanghai Masters. One other talking point: Wimbledon have had their 39 tennis court expansion greenlit by the Greater London Authority. So I'm hearing this, and I'm assuming it means that they're basically very close. They're nearly home and dry in terms of getting all the paperwork, all the red tape, all of that sorted, so that they can go ahead and make 39 lovely new grass courts and bring Wimbledon qualifying home with that. What do you make of this news? What it's going to do for Wimbledon? Because I was just hearing the number 39 and I was like, blimey, that's a lot. That's a lot of grass courts. Well, how are they going to be used? Are they going to be open to the public?
Well, will they all be grass courts? I know that Henman used to always practice on the clay courts at Wimbledon. So potentially maybe they're looking at this as being another base for British tennis players to train in. I think 39 seems like a lot. I think another 8,000 seater stadium also feels like quite a lot. There are some pretty big stadiums at Wimbledon. I'm not sure that many other slams actually do have as many show courts or as big show courts. So it's definitely looking to make sure that it is necessary.
The
Well,
demand is, it feels like the demand is there though, because
and more, right?
yeah, the more and more, I mean, the ticket prices are going up because I feel like they can
They
do
can
it
charge what they want now.
because people are so fascinated. Fans are so come from all over the world to go to the event. So it feels like they can obviously maximize the footprint and make
Qualifying week as well.
yeah. I mean, turning it into a festival, I think, is what their ultimate goal is, and that would include qualifying and make Wimbledon feel like a 3 week event as opposed to a 2 week
Yeah,
event.
it really would. I do hope there is a bigger sort of legacy attached to this from the perspective of tennis courts for the public to play in at Wimbledon Park.
Yeah.
I know there's a minimum of 7 courts that will be available until the end of the grass season. So you hope that there is still sort of the local, not just the club, because obviously the club has a lot of money attached to it, a lot of members attached to it. And not just thinking about, will we get a nice shiny new media center, Joel? But I'm thinking, I hope that the community will also be able to use it and it won't just
Yes,
be
absolutely.
a giant money making operation.
Absolutely.
But I mean, expansion is not a bad thing. And growing things is not a bad thing at all. And I do think the Roehampton is liked by some people, but it is a bit unusual not to play qualifying in the same location.
And I think it's smart as well because we've seen with other Grand Slams, expansion hasn't happened or hasn't happened at the right time, and it's just degraded.
The
I'm thinking
French
about the
Open.
French Open, yeah, exactly.
I love it,
So
but there are some very tight parts of that site.
it really is a necessity. So it's exciting to hear that plans are in place, plans are green lit, and apparently the aim is between 2030 and 2033. That is according to the All England Club chair, Deborah Jevons. So, yes.
Watch this space.
That would be a very exciting, very, very exciting indeed.
Jannik Sinner will still be waiting for his appeal to be heard.
Right. Let's move on. Shanghai Masters is coming up. Well, it's already in action, similar to the Beijing WTA 1000 draw. Big draw happening. Lots of big seeds being put through to the second round with buys, but we have some players who've joined them in the top half. Bottom half action tomorrow. But Chris, where are you looking at in terms of this draw? We've got Jannik Sinner here. Zverev is the second seed. Carlos Alcaraz actually on the same side as Jannik Sinner, so we can't get a Shanghai final between Sinner.
This hopefully will be the final week where we say that because Alcaraz is up to number 2 in the live rankings.
Yes.
So order will be
it could be a semi-final, but yeah, where are you looking at in this draw?
I would love to see Feast take on Sinner. That could be a very interesting. I'm trying to figure out what rounds that would be. Would that be round 3 or round 4?
Round 4, yeah.
Potentially that would be very interesting. I also think there is a bit. It's always interesting to see some of the top players who you haven't seen in a while. I think Rublev had a bit of a health scare. Now he's back on the tour playing. And I also think seeing how Hurkacz will perform, because I believe, didn't he win this last year? Which seems like a very distant memory now.
I mean, what about Novak Djokovic? I mean, he's in the unfamiliar 4th
I was just
seed.
looking. I'm trying to find him on the draw. I was scrolling and scrolling,
position.
Joel.
4th seed position in bottom half.
I've just spotted him.
In the middle, yes.
So, Kaboli, that could be... Well, I mean, we have no idea where his form level is at right now, do we? This is going to be very interesting to see. Surely all eyes should be there. I take it back. I'm looking purely at Novak Djokovic next week. This week.
Yes. This week, exactly. Yeah. I'm kind of interested to see how he gets on. Do we want to make some predictions?
Very quick let's do it.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Fine. Give me a final and a champion.
I can see Taylor Fritz doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I can see him maybe making the final in the bottom half. I'm not sure that everybody will necessarily make it all the way through. Might get some retirements. And then from the top half, you know what? I just think Jannik Sinner, he's going to keep the consistency going. And we might get a repeat of the US Open final.
Okay. I'm going to say Francis,
1 versus 2. No.
Francis Tiafoe from the bottom half.
Okay.
Let's go with...
pick a name.
Medvedev.
I'm waiting for Medvedev to win another title. I don't think he's won in Shanghai before, has he?
No, I don't think so either. Medvedev, why not? Medvedev, go Medvedev Tiafoe final. Let's go a bit rogue. Yes, we shall see. We shall see. But yes, it's another one of those quite long Masters events over 1.5 weeks. We'll have to see how that gets on. But as always, we will be back next week to cover all the action from Shanghai so far. We're going to be looking back also on the WTA 1000 event in Beijing.
If it finishes,
If it finishes,
Kim
yes.
is waiting to come back on the podcast when that finishes. She said only when Beijing is over.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, lots to look forward to, and we'll see if there's any other tennis news that comes out of the woodwork off court. But really looking forward to what comes of the Asian swing as we go deeper and deeper into it. Right, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action still to come from the ATP and WTA tours. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as leave a like on this video on YouTube.
Yes, and we are on YouTube for all of our videos at the moment. We really should say that in the upfront, but if you've made it this far, you can also watch us. You can do it all again. You can see just how passionate we are about.
And you can see my mustache.
Yes, you can see the mustache and also Joel's thought process during Mysterious Player. But you can follow us on social media to see that as well. And you can also email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. As always, you can purchase our Tennis Weekly merch. We don't have much left now. That's at etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly Podcast. There is a sale on, so even more incentive to make a purchase. You can also email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or do check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next week for another tour catch up with Tennis Weekly. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.